Okay, now we're going to set up SoftLogix 5800. And like we said, this is a soft PLC. It's a regular PLC except it runs on a computer. And instead of being on a rack somewhere, you set a computer out there and you connect up to it with an Ethernet cable and you distribute to all your equipment through an Ethernet switch and you control all your I/O. So we're going to set up the soft PLC next. Again, we'll go to our activation disk, or we got activation disk and the README activation instructions. And again, we get the same serial number we did on the last one. Every piece of software has the same serial number. We copy the serial number. So copy, go back, and click on Install Exec. So double click Install Exec. Okay. Hit SoftLogix 5800 version 17. We're going to use version 17. And RSLinx is currently running, and you can't install it when Linx is running. So what we have to do is come down here to our RSLinx. You see RSLinx Classic Communication Service. Right click that and say shut down RSLinx Classic. Just want to shut it down. You notice the icon went away. And now we can install this. That's because it installs a card in the rack that has RSLinx, and it's the RSLinx communication server. And that's what allows it to communicate between the RSLinx, the SoftLogix, and your PLC programming software. So click on SoftLogix 5800, then hit next, accept the license. Again, just whatever you want here, username, company, I just put it out for company. Right click and paste in your serial number. Same serial number. Next. And next. Now, when we set this up, unless you've installed these activation files with the virtual floppy drive, this thing will not start up. It'll start up and you'll say activation not found and shut down immediately. There's no trial to it. It's just either you're activated or you're not. So be sure before you did any of this, make sure you put your activation files on your hard drive. So next, we take program folders as Rockwell Automation, the default. This is real small. It sets up really fast. And would you like to add the chassis monitor to the desktop? It's just an icon that will allow you to click and start up the chassis anytime you want. So we'll say yes. If you don't want to, that's okay. It's in the menu. So I'm going to say yes. And we don't want to read the README files right now. And just finish. Install the EDS files. It's real quick. Bam. It's done. And that's it. SoftLogix is set up. We'll hit exit. Okay. Now what we have to do is come over here and get all programs, Rockwell software, RSLinx, RSLinx control panel, and there it is. And I got always run as a service. Uncheck that for right now and hit start. And here's your RSLinx back up. Shut this down, hit stop, hit run as a service and hit start, and now you'll see RSLinx is down here again where it was. Some of the newer versions won't run as a service and allow you to browse your directories, your Explorer tree where it says RSWho. The RSWho is what you browse to see what computers and I/O is connected. Only with 5.2.54 will this allow you to bring up your window and look at your browser. So now that this is running, we can actually start up SoftLogix. SoftLogix on your desktop, or you go to Programs, Automation, and SoftLogix 5800 and Chassis Monitor. Either way you want to start it. And as you see, it looks kind of like a ControlLogix. We can put 6 processors and 6 Ethernet cards in here. It also has simulated I/O, where you can actually have 16 inputs and 16 outputs per card, digital inputs and outputs that you click on per card. Okay, first thing we want to do is create. Before we go any further, first thing we're going to go to Options and see this clear configuration on Remove. Click that. When you click on Options again, you'll see it's checked. This is important. When you install a card, and if you remove that card, there's a checkbox that says clear the configuration. If you don't clear that configuration, you can't install another card. You can reinstall the same card you had and use that existing configuration, but you want to clear the configuration whenever you remove a card. Okay, let's install a processor. We hit Create, and we'll come down here and we'll see we got a 1789 L60 SoftLogix 5800 controller. So we want to install a controller. I say OK. All right. You can do a startup in last state. If it was running, it starts up running. If it was in program mode, it starts up program mode. But we're going to go remote program mode. Remote program mode allows us in our RSLogix 5000 software, programming software, we can actually control it through that software and make it run or stop it and go in program mode. So just put it in remote program mode. Hit Next. Leave these as defaults, just the way they are. Don't even touch these. Now, if you want to have a serial, like if you got an in-view message display, text message display, you may want to communicate through a COM port, and you can pick a COM port, COM1, COM2. If you only got one COM port, it has to be COM1. You don't have to have a COM port. It's not necessary. You could have none. But if you want to communicate through there to some other device that's serial, like a serial HMI, you would want to use COM1 or whichever COM you want. Hit Finish, and there you see the SoftLogix, and it looks just like a ControlLogix processor. This is your Run, Remote, and Program. You click on here, you got Run or Program. Put it in Run mode, and it's running, but there's no program in it. You can put it on Program mode, and it's in Program mode where you can download a program. If we put it in Remote, that was our default, the software will put it in Run or Program for you, and you can switch back and forth in your software, your programming software. Okay, this is the part that's kind of important. We're going to add an Ethernet, create and put in an Ethernet IP SoftLogix Ethernet IP card right here. Ethernet IP, SoftLogix Ethernet IP. Hit OK. Well, this is going to use your computer address, and you don't really want to use your computer address because you may want to add more than one Ethernet card in here. You can actually add up to 6 Ethernet cards. So you may want to put one processor here and an Ethernet card, and another processor here, here, or over here and here, and an Ethernet card. And that way it acts just like 2 PLCs, and you can write 2 different programs, run 2 different programs at the same time, and you can practice sending messages with data back and forth and what they call consumed and produced tags, where this data just automatically updates back and forth between these PLCs. So to do this, we're going to have to be tricky here. I'll hit Cancel. We come down to our network card. If you move where your network here, right here, your network icons, and you hit Open Network Connections. If your icon's not there, I'll show you how to do this. we'll go to our control panel, and we'll come down to networking. You see network connections, and you'll see your local area network connection. Oops. And you hit properties. When you hit properties, see this right here? It says show icon in notification area when connected. If this is unchecked, and that's the default, you'll never see your network connection down here if that's unchecked. Here, I'll hit OK, and you'll see it goes away. That's your default. You don't see your network connection down there. I like the network connection down there. Hit properties, check show icon in notification area, hit OK, and then you'll see you got your computer networks back here. So we're hitting properties. That's one way. Cancel, close. Or if your notifications are up, you can just say open network connections. Click on your network connection, properties, and you see this Internet Protocol, TCP/IP. Click on that. Make sure it's blue, and then click properties. All right, you see most computers are set up to obtain an IP address automatically. And so what you want to do is say use the following IP address, and you click that. And you want to put in a manual IP address. If we did, we can leave this automatic and then hit advanced, and it says this one's DHCP is enabled, so I can't add any more addresses in here. Just cancel and hit use the following IP address. If you don't know your address, this is pretty easy to do. Go to Start, Run, type in CMD for command. This opens a DOS window. OK. And type ipconfig. That's all you need, just ipconfig. And hit enter. And it tells you what it is. It tells you that your default gateway, this is your router or modem going out to the internet to get to that internet and to find other devices on your router modem. This is the address you'll use. This is mine. So this .1 will be your router. Typically it's a .1. It'll say default gateway. This is what we're looking for, default gateway and IP address. This IP address is 192.168.200.12. I don't have to use 12. I can use any address that's available. So for my controls, I like to start at 100 and work my way up. That way I don't have any conflicts with anything else in my network. So let's close this out, and I'll put in 192.168.200 because that's what my network is. We got to know what our network is. Just like you saw, run, command, OK, ipconfig, and we know that our network address, what they call the network address, is 192.168.200. Yours might be .1, it might be .100, it might be .10, but this is the network address, and this is the computer address, 1 through 255, and 1 is usually reserved for the gateway, so you can't use 1. So I'm going to put in 100. I just pick one, and it'll automatically change my address to 100. Click on subnet, and you automatically get your right subnet mask in there. Default gateway, we just looked that up, 192.168.200 for me, and 1. So yours could be 11 or 100.1, it doesn't matter. DNS server, you can put in the address of your gateway if you want it to find it. If you don't know if your router will handle DNS through its gateway, then you can put in the Google DNS servers. That's domain name services, and domain name services is when you put in Microsoft.com, it goes to Microsoft. Instead of putting in like 74.24.10.100, you don't know what their address is. They look that up for you with domain name service, which is Microsoft.com, Google.com. Well, the Google domain name service server is 8.8.8.8, and the second server, the alternate, is 8.8.4.4. And now you hit advanced. You can just put in your gateway. It'll probably work fine with your gateway. So if you just put in 192.168.200.1, and it'll probably look it up through your domain name service of your local internet service provider. So now we hit advanced. Now here's the trick. We're going to add. We can add a bunch of addresses to our network card, and all these different pieces of software can function. HMIs, Ethernet, virtual Ethernet cards, all these will work through a different address. So I'll go 192.168.200.101. Set your subnet mask and it fills it in. Add another one. 192.168.200.102. Hit your subnet mask, it fills it in. And I'll add one more. You can add, like I said, you can put 6 cards in here if you want. So you can put another 6 addresses on here if you want to. It's up to you. If you want to add another one, you can add 192.168.200.103. Okay. And you just hit OK. Hit OK again. Close this out. And hit close again. And now it's updating your Ethernet address. Close. Okay. And we'll close this out here. All right. Let's do this again so we can see what happened here. Hit run. CMD for command. Type in ipconfig. And now you'll see you got all these addresses there. We're at 100. We also got a 101, a 102, and a 103. So we can use any of these addresses on this computer. All right, so let's install a card here. Right click, create, Ethernet IP card. Notice it's in slot 2. This is slot 2. You got to make sure these slots are right. You say OK. Now we got all these addresses to choose from. So now I'll go to 101 and hit next. Give it a label. You can just say Ethernet underscore IP1 and finish. In a second, it'll take off. It says it's OK. And you'll see the address scroll through there, and you'll see it's working. So let's go down here and put in a processor. I'll hit create. SoftLogix 5800, 5860 controller. Again, next. I only got one serial port, so I'd say none here. Finish. There's my other controller. Create another Ethernet card. And this time I'll pick, you see 101's gone because it's been used. There's only 100, 102, and 103. I'll click on 102, hit next. We'll call this a Ethernet 02. Whoops, 02. Finish. This says Ethernet IP1. Let me rename this one then. Properties, Ethernet IP2. Apply. Now we get 2 Ethernet cards. All right. Remember I told you when you get an RSLinx, you can see everything that's on the network? So if we come down here to RSLinx Communications, click it, bring up the control again, the control panel, hit RSWho, hit your virtual backplane, and now you see underneath here you've got a SoftLogix controller and an Ethernet IP adapter. This has got a DF1 serial port. The second one doesn't have one. It does, but it doesn't have anything that you connect to because we don't have a second port. We'd have to specify COM2 if we're going to use that. And here's your Ethernet here. So you can see all these PLCs come up once you've installed them. If we go to Ethernet IP and we expand this out, in a second we should get these two Ethernet cards popped up here. Now what might be happening is we're not getting through the firewall. Sometimes your firewall has a problem. I typically turn off my firewall on my controls. So if we go to control panel and we look at Windows Firewall right here and say turn it off. Don't worry about the exceptions right now, just turn it off and hit OK. It says your firewall's off. It's fine. Now you see these adapters show up because they're not coming through the firewall. There's special ports. You have to go in and configure these ports to get these through the firewall. Now if we look at these Ethernet IP, we shut this down so it isn't so crowded. So under Ethernet IP you see the two cards we just put in and our adapter out in the field. So we expand this out, you'll see a backplane, and underneath there you'll see everything in the backplane through this card and through the other card. Okay, that shows how RSLinx works and how it communicates back and forth. Next is to set up our programming software, and when we set up our programming software, we'll see we can use Who to find the processor and download our program and run the PLC program and watch it work. Okay, I'll see you in the next video.